I'm going to have no part involved in this.
How's that for starting the live stream, Tony? Tony. So welcome everybody to the live stream with the Clout Forum. So beautiful. This is let's continue the way we start, Tony, with good laughs and good spirits. So welcome everyone to the live stream. Alex, have you got the controls to spotlight the videos?
Yeah, sure.
Cheers, my friend. And great. So welcome to the Clout Forum. This is a series of conversations that Alex and I, Mark Bentley, have been hosting. So Alex Roken, if you don't know him, has been creating Clout Forum, doing all the work behind the scenes. Please make sure to check out his BitClout profile. And today we have a very special guest, Master Tony Wu. Thank you for joining us today. And first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Relatively interesting day. A lot of research, looking at stuff, and way too much Genshin Impact. But yeah, not much.
Gotcha.
Just your normal average.
So let's diving straight in the deep end. What kind of things are you looking up? Like, what does your day look like?
Okay, so it really depends on the day, but this is my day today. I slept at a very early hour of 3 a.m. As you can tell, very healthy sleeping schedule. I woke up around 10. Took around 2 hours of meetings and went into researching NFT for NFT tech for approximately 2 to 3 hours. Did some research on generative art, how to make generative art, how those things usually work, how price floors work. Went on the Clubhouse for BitClout and listened in for a while. Went for a very delightful lunch at the local fine dining restaurant known as McDonald's, and basically came home, had a few calls, and chilled, relaxed, and listened to some music. Granted, my music taste is absolutely not matching my hairstyle.
Those that joined us on the live stream, that's what we were talking about just before. I was saying Tony was letting his hair out, and I was saying it had a slight, Johnny Depp, very, very cool kind of vibe to it, and it suits him. And yeah, so Tony, talk to me. Going back, for those that haven't come across you, that haven't seen you on BitClout, because obviously you're quite prominent on BitClout. You're very passionate. You've been sharing a lot with NFTs and so many different things, and you've done really well for yourself. So coming right back to the start, first of all, do you mind me asking in public, how old are you?
I'm 17 years old, born in 2004, February 9th, Beijing, China.
There you go. So just for everyone out there watching and listening, this Tony, you represent to me one of the hopes that I have for the way the world's going right now, is with all the chaos that's happening. It's the young minds like your own that, as Alex said in the write-up, one of the young geniuses of BitClout, it's that ability. I know, right? I know the feeling. It's intense to have those things thrown at you, but really when you think about it, genius is your ability to do what is in your genes, right? And that's what I'm seeing in you and many others. Is it's almost like those restrictions of the old world aren't holding you back. You're kind of breaking through, you're reimagining what's possible. So what brought you to BitClout? How did you find your way here?
Yeah, okay. This is where I have to give a shout out to the original, the one and only, the Sigil Wang. Me and Sid have a similar friend circle, and we kind of always know each other through Instagram, and we had a few interactions before. So one day, being very bored, I was just scrolling through Instagram, looking at your normal everyday pictures and stories and terrible food and also very fake lives of teenagers. And I come across this one thing. It's like, oh my God, my coin price is at 2,200. Now, obviously, I'm like, you made a cryptocurrency that got to 2,000 per coin? Are you a scammer? So I sent over a message. I'm like, hey, what's this about? I just searched up the Sigil token, and it turned out there was a Sigil token. It was like 2 cents though. Later, I turned out he actually did make a Sigil token. And I'm like, hey, this isn't $2,000. What's this? And he's like, this is BitClout. I'm like, what is BitClout? And then he explained what BitClout to him is and what BitClout is. And I'm like, you know what? You had me at social media stock market, because I personally like both of those things. So, ran right into it. I'm like, okay, so what should I do on this platform? What does this platform look like? Oh, wow, this is just Twitter. I don't use Twitter. Okay, let me go learn Twitter, and realize that this is just basically a Twitter copy with the part that people invest. So taking that, I kind of just got my start on BitClout. I bought some from him, and I think like $150 worth, and I basically put it into different accounts. I started starting different accounts because in my point of view, it's like, this is Twitter, this is early. No one has to like name meme hub yet. No one has to name history memes yet. No one has to name anime memes yet. So let me just seed all of these accounts. And once people adopt, they're probably going to think that these names are going to go up. So I'm going to gain that money momentum, and people are going to buy my creator coin. I didn't really understand much more at that point, but that's what I started doing. Later on, I realized, wait a minute, this isn't a way to make money, because if I sell my creator coin, people are going to call me a rugger. That's when I came into Clubhouse rooms. And the first room I've ever been in was a bunch of people complaining about being rugged. And I was like, what is being rugged? What is a rug pull? And then I had people like Raj, people like Red, people like basically everyone in the community at the time telling me what all of these things are. I started to learn what all these things are. And then I realized that the real money is in the investment bit. And that's when I started kind of onboarding a lot of my friends to handle the daily runnings of each individual account I had. I think at my peak, I had 60, 65 accounts running at the same time, just all under my same little mafia group. And wow. you think that number is big, but it honestly, at that time, it was me calling everyone I know. It's like, hey, can I have your phone number? I'm just going to need it for this new website. You're probably never going to need this again. It's probably might die in a few weeks. Who knows? I just need it for it right now. Please, can I have this phone number? Did that like so many times, grew those accounts. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started on BitClout.
Wow, man. That's quite a ride. And I think, you know, one of the things that straight away pops to me is the way that, again, like speaking to that idea of busting through these limitations. You know, there's a lot of people that feel, you know, oh, it's too hard. How do they get to do this? Why does this happen? But really, already you've shown straight off the bat that it's, you know, you just showed initiative. You saw opportunity. You thought, here's a good experiment. Didn't you? Jumped in and just went at it, right? And I love the way you're resourcing your friends like that. Did you make any deal with them? Like, you know, if it does go big, we'll go 50-50 or something, or you just kind of score that on friends' rights?
Honestly, at the time, what he told me was it's going to be a positive sum game because he's giving me the starting capital. He actually gave me a bit at the start, and then he put the few first point. If you go into my coin to see who first purchased it, he was literally the first person to purchase on my coin. So in my mind, it was like, you know what? There's no risk to me. And I never actually considered splitting it 50-50. And it was more just a thank you for onboarding me. And now I'm going to make sure that everyone get their return.
It's one of the beautiful things, right? That's something I fell in love with as well with BitClout, is it really is, this environment really does incentivize that teamwork, right? It incentivizes find people that haven't been spotted yet and invest in them, make them get to the top, and then you can actually reap the benefits, right, with them. So it's a pretty awesome thing. So Tony, you've come in, you've got settled in. Now, would you say that Clubhouse has been one of the key places that you've been learning about BitClout?
It's the key place that I learned about BitClout and how annoying the politics are, but it's not the place where I learned how BitClout actually operates. It's not the place where I learned like, hey, this is how you trade creator coins. This is how you actually get down global feed. I learned nothing from there. The things I learned on Clubhouse is more, this is how you onboard people. This is like all the projects that's been happening. This is what people has been doing. This is what this new celebrity came out, turned out to be a scam. Things like that. That's what I actually learned on Clubhouse. It's more just the social aspect of the social media. It's kind of ironic in a way that the social media uses another social media for its social media. But, you know, it is that level of social media to social media to social media triangle that we look for. A bit like pyramid, but ignoring that.
Absolutely. So where would you say you have been picking up? Like where? So first of all, would you recommend, before we move away from the Clubhouse, for people that have just come onto the platform, right? And there's, because obviously, as you say, we're still early. There's so much going on. There is politics that goes on. There's NFTs. There's so much happening on BitClout. What would be your recommendations for someone when they first come in? to get started? Do you see some pathways there?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few pathways. I think the best pathway is to go on Clubhouse, grab a moderator, and go, okay, you're going to sit down with me for the next 30 minutes and explain this to me. I think that's the best way for someone to onboard themselves. It's through thorough knowledge, and every processy it's determined and seen. Many of the calls I took this morning was actually people who wanted to reach out. It's like, hey, I want to get on BitClout. What does this look like? How can I get started? And Creator Fund actually offered them a system where they literally get $120. That's for free for them to get onto the platform, get some starting clout. And Creator Fund simply just literally helps them buy the first 10 coins and then get like a few coins so they recoup the cost later on when these people blow up. But yeah, I think it's either through calls where you're actively getting like advice and actual good advice from people in Clubhouse, or through these larger institutions like the BitClout Foundation that's going to be happening. Like Creator Fund, like some other people like the Krasensteins, like people like Michelle. I think that's how people could best get on. And in terms of what happens after them on here, I think there's a giant limbo where you have no idea exactly what's talking about and what everyone's talking about. And that giant limbo is where someone could be exploited. That's where people's like, hey, can you lower your founders rate to an unreasonable amount? Hey, can you give me some of your coins? Hey, what was those 12 words you have to enter to get into your account? I need it because you lost password, wink, wink. I think that's the period where someone really has to kind of not necessarily stay on Clubhouse. And this is why I think BitClout has a scalability problem, but they have to actively engage with the community quite often to realize all of those things could potentially be harmful.
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. So it really is important, isn't it, to be engaging in the community and listening to what's going on, huh?
Yeah, because the community is tiny. It's so tiny to the fact that basically everyone knows each other. And that itself could be a problem, especially when new people come in, because when it's anthropology, when new people come into a new tribe, they have to adopt all the culture, they have to adopt all the terminology. And the tribe itself inherently has certain things that they don't tell outsiders. And that whole bucket of things is what kind of acts as a barrier to entry, aside from the fact that you need crypto to get in. Well, not anymore, but that's another layer of barrier of entry that's kind of annoying. But I think people are getting around it.
Yeah. So you do see that changing, or like you say, people getting around it? What's your feelings around the way it moves forwards?
I see people getting around it through like actually talking to people, but I think that's too much effort to the point where you have to talk to people like 20 minutes to talk to people to understand social media. That's an issue about the social media. And that's like one of my biggest critiques on BitClout is that it's hard to scale. I still believe in the platform, but I think that's a problem that people need to solve. And I think developers are trying to solve the problem with the free clout and the ability to get on without having to pay $60. That was a giant change for those of us who are in the early days. The ability to not use your phone number, that was a giant thing. And signing in with Google, that's also a giant thing. I think that they're lowering the barrier to entry slowly, but I think that as soon as they lower to the point where the average person can join, that's when BitClout would get its greatest value.
No, that's a really good point. So, well, from your perspective, do you feel like we'd be ready right now? If it was easy to come on board, do you reckon we're ready yet?
No, not even close. Not even remotely close. The community, first of all, is too small, too concentrated, too localized. It shares too much of the same opinion, which would be a good thing, but it's also a bad thing, depending on your point of view. And the biggest thing is the site is not ready. And that's a huge thing. I know there's many nodes out there. I know there's people in CloudFree, FlickApp, developing new technology, developing new algorithms. But until that we have a curated feed, until people can, for the lack of a better word, use this like a normal social media, until it's that intuitive, I don't think we're ready for a large migration yet. I think we're still a bit far off from there. To be honest, my personal date for when BitClout actually goes up a lot or becomes mainstream, not mainstream, just crypto mainstream, that would be sometime within the next bull cycle.
In the next bull, yeah. I hear you there. I can feel that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a healthy thing, really, right? Like it's in the bigger picture, because it's one of those hard things, isn't it? When we're excited, we want to see the manifestation of this as quick as possible. Yet at the same time, anything solid like trees, they always put in deep roots first before they can go up and become great oak trees, right? So
yeah,
there is that wisdom in the patience. So,
if BitClout is to succeed, it's going to be a marathon and not a sprint. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Now, for those that always love these kind of predictions of where things are heading, have you done much contemplation around what the future of like BitClout itself as a currency, as where that's going?
Yes, and I come up with two very different results. Both are extremely concerning. So the first obvious result is that BitClout completely crashes in value. I know in the community we are always really positive about the future of BitClout, and I think that is something good. But as someone who look at the more dangerous side of investing, in me, I think that, let's be honest here, currently BitClout is at $100. It's been at $100 for 3 weeks. That is not natural. No one on this app can convince me that that price, the BitClout current price, it's not market manipulation. So my question here is, what happens when the lockup period to the original investors goes away? What happens then? That's on the first level of questioning, is that could potentially be a possibility where people maybe not maliciously, but dunk and, and continuously just, sell off their coins, make a profit, which is completely fine. We live in a capitalist society, all of that. But that would probably make the price of BitClout go down, since there is that continuous cycle of purchasing and selling. And if that price gets pushed down, that price is going to push down. That's the worst case scenario. I don't think that scenario is going to happen, mostly because most of the VC involved in here actually want BitClout to succeed. So they could actually achieve a higher value and be able to sell it off by small bits. I don't think you're going to see a giant dump. But that is one possibility. And the bigger possibility, by the way, I didn't know it stands for cyber.
Cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
For those watching, they don't see the
I didn't know
here.
that.
We just had a comment from Amina Beck saying CF stands for cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, in this case, I'm referring to the creator fund. Okay. In the other scenario is the scenario that I hope would probably happen, is that if more people start adapting BitClout, let's assume 1 million people get on BitClout, then you do the calculation here. Okay, so there's 10.7, 10.8 million tokens in total supply lock after the deflationary bomb. So each person would only have on average 10 clout. However, that's not going to be the case, because we know that I think 40% was already pre-mined. So that aside, we realistically only have like 6.5, 6.4 million tokens. So each person will only have 6. But no, that's not the case, because we know people have more. So the early onboards to us now, we take up another 2 million of them, around there, estimated numbers. So there's only really 4 millions left. But then we also know that as more people onboard, that's going to continuously have more people hoard that, since people can make clout based on early investments. So that's probably another 1 million gone. Realistically speaking, each person would have like 3 clout to share. If there's 1 million people, on average, people will have like 3 clouts each. That would make BitClout incredibly valuable if the platform actually starts getting adopted and getting scaled. So if that scenario happens, then boom, the price of BitClout probably going to explode.
Hang on, Tony, the internet just waved a bit there, but I got that last bit about the explode. All right, just checking you there, Tony, still?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, there we are. Yeah, we've resynced. Awesome. Man, Tony, thanks for running us through that. That was actually a really nice numbers game, just kind of watching that kind of piece together. I think it's an important thing for people to take into that bigger picture, right, of what the mechanics of that are at play. Because sometimes it feels like this is a kind of just simply just make up the value kind of game for a lot of people. It's like, whereas we're really seeing what comes down to this is the demand for it, right? So like you said, 1 million people, you look at any social media platform, 1 million people isn't hard to build as long as you've got a viable product that's filling a need. And so I guess really it comes down to, can we establish BitClout? Can we get over that line and anchor it in, eh?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a slow climb, and I think it's not going to be an easy climb, but I think we'll get there eventually, especially since 22% of the US population holds crypto now. And I think crypto's been relatively big in South Asia. It's starting up as a building platform. We've seen ADA work in Africa. We've seen Ethereum blockchain being used widely around the world. We've seen Ripple already being charged with transactions, even though FCC does not like it. And we've seen El Salvador adopt Bitcoin as its actual legal tender. So I think crypto as a general is going to be on the upspring. I think that upspring in the next 10 years is going to bring up a lot of things. And I think BitClout probably is going to be one of them. I don't know about the decentralization of BitClout, given I think what BitClout is a decentralized platform with centralized nodes, which then just become centralized anyways, because you're going to be operating on a node. So I'm not sure about the decentralized bit, but I think BitClout would be kind of the original, the Bitcoin of social media currency on the blockchains and in the metaverse. So I think BitClout itself has a lot of potential in the long
run. Absolutely. And I saw someone was sharing around Vitalik Buterin, with Ethereum, did one of his talks about social media tokens and actually did a mention. He said he didn't necessarily agree with the economics, but he had BitClout up on the presentation, which I thought was awesome. And he said, as an example of a social media crypto that is not a what do you call it?
Scam.
A deserted, empty.
Yeah.
A ghost town.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good shout out to see if he's seen that. Then that's a positive.
I agree with him. I don't agree with all the economics of BitClout, but I think it's good. It's something to start with.
Well, absolutely right, Tony. I mean, this is that thing that I see one of my beefs with the world sometimes is we've become a little bit used to kind of just going, oh, government fix this, you fix this, everyone else fix this, and I'm just going to pay my money, right? I'm going to pay my taxes, I'm going to pay my thing, but you fix this. And a lot of people are a little bit distant or disconnected from the actual process of what goes into actually creating something on cutting edge like this. That, it's one thing to not agree with the economics, but it's another to actually come up with what is the ideal economics. Like, this is a whole new world, right? And have you thought much about that? Like, alternative ways that you would do BitClout if it was in your hands?
Oh, I have been asked that question too many times. I think that I think Diamond Hands did a really good job when it comes to BitClout and how he structures it, but I would have done two things that were different. First of all, I would have made the creator bond, made the creator coin price bonding curve much less steep than what it looks like now, because I think that would make it much less about, let's get into this one coin, pump it up to $1,000 and dump it. I think then you have that slow progression. The second thing I would do is and this might be controversial, but instead of the gas fee of the going to the node admin, I would do a system where, let's say, instead of 1/200th of a cent, I do 2/200th of a cent. Not a really noticeable increase, but each view that goes directly to the creator. This way you actually directly monetize your own material. That's another thing I would add as something on BitClout. And if Paulson, you're watching, can you please put this into a node? Thank you so much. And that's kind of something that I would personally have done different among some other things, but I don't think those things are the most important. But those are the two features: is making the bonding curve much less steep as the way it is, makes it that people could actually require a lot more capital to gain that amount of money, and requires a lot more dedication. It's way more long term instead of which what I see now.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that. And that it is 100% one of the challenges, right? That if someone gets in early, then all of a sudden it's like, if they get your coin, like a lot of people made those mistakes, it's an expensive mistake down the track, with that coin.
Yeah.
So,
and and it's also kind of unsettling because sometimes you would accidentally buy too much of a coin. Like a few weeks ago, I was asked to invest in the pre-sale round of NFT Mall, and they gave me a pre-sale option and one of which is lowest founders rate at 10% at $3,000. Now, personally, I thought it was going to be like a lot more people, so I'm like, all right, I'll throw $3,000 at it. I'll probably end up holding 2 to 3 coins because that's what I expected. I ended up with 7. So now I'm in an awkward situation where me as an investor who invested in it has to take profit eventually, but I hold so much of the coin, I need to find out a ethical way to take that profit without actually directly hurting everyone below me, which is an issue that I had to struggle with ever since I kind of started trading on the platform. But it gets really hard when you're invited to a pre-sale instead of just found a coin early, because if you're invited to a pre-sale, then you do have that level of responsibility. If, in the other hand, you found a coin that was cheap and bought it, then you don't have that level of responsibility.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because it's something I often think about is, because there's often, do you remember when we first came on and there was the past where everyone was kind of rushing in and there was this kind of mantra of, I'll hold forever, I'll never sell, invest in me and hold my coin forever. And there was a lot of this going around and I was sitting there thinking, like, I love the sentiment, but how's anyone gonna make anything? Like, economics, we need give and take. It needs to be cycling. There needs to be movement, and otherwise you get stagnant, swampy water. And I thought this is an interesting, and it's been really interesting watching how that has been evolving, because I think it's important that people, become okay with buying and selling. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So personally, I think at the very start, rugging your own coin, it's bad. I think everyone could agree with that part. And I think here's how I see the history of BitClout selling your own coin. First, very taboo. You never do it. If you do it, you're a scammer. Then it turned to be a Raj poll, which is, oh, it's so popular to just completely dump all your coin. And that was a giant thing. And then it was, oh, if you sell your coins, like what Paparazzi does, to help other people to actually purchase in real life equipment, oh, that's kind of okay. And then you have the founders rate change, which allowed you to actually get money instead of just get your own coin, which I think is probably one of the best changes that devs did. I think you saw that evolution of how that thing kind of climbed its way up the ladder, how things eventually shifted from a more taboo to now less taboo. And now, personally, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do a system where all the new projects I start, all the new coins I start now, I would all hold 0. I would hold 0 of their coins, because this way, then the community actually determines my value and not myself. If you were to actually look at my top table, except for me playing with diamonds, trying to see if I can buy much and then send diamonds, or I can not buy anything and send diamonds, and some early sales I did when I was like $22. I never touched my coin whatsoever. I actually don't hold any of my coins now. I did a trade with Creator Fund where I was able to give them my coins. And this way, I think that it really let the community determine what my actual coin value is, instead of having myself like hold up my coin value. Because like, let's say if I put 100K in my coin, yeah, I have a high coin price, but does that mean the community likes me? No. Does the community currently like me? I don't know. Does anyone like me? That's a question I should talk to my therapist about. So, it's interesting. That's how I say.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think interesting is a good word for it. And we've got Amina Beck has put a little post here saying BitClout isn't here to solve inequality though. And I think this brings up an interesting conversation around social media has become such a kind of breeding ground for divisive politics, all kinds of politics. And it's something that I'm excited about with decentralization, is getting into a place where we're not creating echo chambers, where we're not creating places where we can actually kind of incentivize this openness and conversation. But it's interesting watching, because there still is, you can watch, that culture coming onto the platform.
I argue it makes it worse. And this is, I think I talked about this in a room before and I got mad hate for it. But I think that decentralization of social media, and this is why I actually like BitClout more, that it's kind of centralized, is I think the decentralization of social media probably leads to worse off echo chambers and worse off scenarios. And that's just a personal view, because I think that to an extent, life does need certain levels of control within some centralized authority. Because looking at a decentralized social media, what happens when the next OnlyFans is decentralized and children start uploading? Like, I'm not talking about children, I'm talking about 16-year-olds who think it's cool. What happens when the next time a alt-right authoritarian leader of a country, totally not pointing fingers here, decides to throw a hissy fit and start a giant echo chamber where it's decentralized, he says, and is able to kind of create something on BitClout that everyone can flock to, a place that he gets to choose everything, where nothing is ever recorded or spoken. I think it is a level of, it's a fine line between where centralization and decentralization needs to be when it comes to social media, because I do think that certain things should be censored. For example, child pornography. I don't care what your opinion is. If you disagree with like this with me, to like anyone in the world, I don't care who you are. I don't like you. Like, child pornography should never be on any social media whatsoever. And that's the thing with decentralization. It's people, us, who make the rules as a community, but to the extent where that community couldn't make the rules for every specific bit, since it is decentralized and each node has its own autonomy, that becomes a problem. There needs to be some foundation DAO system that determines, hey, look, we could go as decentralized as possible, but here are a few basic guidelines we have to follow.
No, I think it's a voice of realism, Tony. And I think it's a really important one. You know, I know myself personally, I can be very idealistic. So I'm very much about, you know, the dreaming of the storytelling of what's possible to inspire people to keep reaching, right? And it's something that I have to keep checking myself on, is exactly what you're bringing up here, is that realism of, that's great. That's great to fantasize about what's possible in the future, but what's real right now? Because, you know, these are challenging points people don't like to talk about or think about when thinking about the positive side of things, that they are very real choices. And I guess it really comes down to how ready are we as a society, a group of individuals working together, how ready are we to take on full accountability and self-responsibility for everything? And in some ways, it's like, you know, because as you're saying, that makes me think, if we fully decentralize to the point that that kind of content can be on social media and not stop because it's completely decentralized, then in some ways you need to start decentralizing, you know, authority, police, you know, enforcement agencies, you know, to the point where you're going to have, what do you call them? Not superheroes, but the ones who do it on their own.
Vigilantes.
Well, like vigilantes, you know, it's like, that's the kind of world that kind of seems to go towards, is where it becomes the hackers and the vigilantes and the people that then start. And that's a pretty dystopian view too. So it's kind of this thing of like, we've got control on one side and we've got complete absolute freedom on the other. So what does that balance look like? And I think that's the challenge we've got now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think on a different level, I'm gonna take it away from the extreme and into what I consider as the most realistic scenario. The most realistic scenario for BitClout potentially going into the negative would be people building specific engineered nodes with specific curated feeds to specifically gear towards a certain group of audience. For example, let's say you're in France and you have a very much anti-EU feed that it's only on that anti-EU node. So if this gains mass adoption and people only go to that node because that node is where their social media is, they're going to a specific social media based on one political belief, that's where you're going to have problem. And that's why you are going to have the problems of no exposure. Now, the reason why centralized social media has less of this problem, again, still have this problem, but less of this problem, is because of the idea of the contact theory. As in, if I'm a person, just your everyday average person, goes into Twitter, search random stuff, I'm probably going to run into some things I disagree with. And that disagreement would probably challenge some of my beliefs, just tiny bits of it. And eventually, if you have enough contact with an idea, you start eventually seeing the merits of an idea, or you start seeing this idea, let me think about it, and if I don't agree with it, you reinform your own idea. But what happens when everything's decentralized, but not really decentralized, because people on these nodes still get to confirm who's verified, the node admins still get to do all of those things. And if a group of node admins, always similar political views, come together and make a node, their political view is going to be the view of that node. that's going to be a complete utter echo chamber with almost zero exits. That's what I'm afraid of as the realistic scenario that I'm seeing with the polarization, especially in the States and the EU. What would happen if BitClout goes in that worst case scenario? I don't think it will go into that worst case scenario. I think the community now would set up something like a DAO, a foundation, wink, wink, nudge, nudge to those of you who know, to regulate things like this. But that's what would happen if we absolutely go decentralized, I think. And that's why I think I personally prefer a bit of centralization. As Emilio will put it, is that people needs to regulate, but the people who choose to regulate needs to be the people who are not going to have those perverse interests.
That's the tricky part, right? Taking away those invested interests by those who get to regulate and finding ways to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, if we can decentralize that regulation in a fair and safe way, we're good.
Nice, man. Beautiful. So I'm sitting here thinking we could dive into those conversations for a long way, but respectful of the time and what we have ahead, I want to ask you, Tony, when it comes to BitClout itself and what you're doing on BitClout, what are your biggest passions right now for BitClout? Like where's your heart lie? Like what projects going on? What's your key interests?
So at the very start of BitClout, I'm kind of just an investor. I helped build up a few projects, wrote a few white papers, something like that. But now I'm much more concentrated with my time. Large amount of my time spent with CF Creator Fund and not Saber Sclerosis, for either research or talking to new people. I've been trying to onboard certain investors and certain artists onto the platform. That's where I'm spending a lot of my time. I also have my own personal little art project I'm starting up. Not really art projects. It's just me ranting about things that I believe should be ranted about, but I couldn't really put into words. So I put them into certain graphics, really terrible graphics, but still certain graphics, and post them on an account. It's called Critical Satire. It's pretty nice. I'm also recently working with a dear friend of mine, Jody Sai. I don't know if she's watching this. Hi, Jody, if you are. Who's working on this thing called CryptoLance, which is taking parts of a stock chart for crypto and making it into a landscape painting. I'm trying to support her to do her projects because I think it's really cool. But yeah, other than that, my main focus on BitClout right now is probably the creator funds doing and NFTs. I personally relatively like NFTs, and I think I bought a bunch of NFTs either through creator fund or with my own money. I think I still hold one of the highest purchased art pieces on the platform, Black Cherry's first piece, Frozen Suspense, at $5,050, I think. I don't know whether it's still one of the top ones, but it should be up there.
Nice. And so people can see that in your gallery, right? They can go check out.
Go check it out.
How cool
it's really cool.
Go check out Tony Wu's gallery and you'll see all these NFTs. So on NFTs, Tony, what is it you love about NFTs? Why is that such an exciting thing for you?
Okay, so contrary to popular belief, art NFTs are not my favorite things about NFTs. I think NFTs is the future of ticketing, security, ownership, and all of that. It's a proof of ownership that could be used in so many ways other than art. This is not to take away from the art world, but expand NFT as a technology. The underlying technology of an NFT could be coded to do so many more things. I did some use cases on my own account, such as a revenue-bearing NFT, which is an NFT. If you purchase, and Michael, if you're out there, yeah, I'm getting you the link. It's almost updated. Thank you for your patience. Didn't expect you to have a Pioneer badge, which is a link that bears you continuous revenue as things go on. So that's a revenue-bearing NFT. I have seen people do charity NFTs. I have seen people do NFTs, and this is also one of my use cases that puts up a percentage of their literal life as an NFT, and it's like, hey, you get 1% of my total income if you just put in this much. I also seen coin pre-sales being used as NFTs, using NFTs to gain a almost fair entry system to creator coins. I think on a surface level, that's what NFTs are able to achieve now. But if you just look one step deeper, the implications of all of that comes up. What happens when you can code in a smart contract that a holder of a certain NFT receives X amount of something every single day? When that happens, what happens is that now you have a dividend structure that cannot be faked, that everyone knows where happened, that everyone knows that there's only a certain amount of copies of that, that everyone knows the actual agreed value of each, that everyone knows the entire transactional history of. So you basically get rid of insider trading when it comes to that. You have that as a possible way for companies to go public, to issue NFTs as a part of their shares. That's where I see the future of NFTs is. It's in the finance world. It's in all of these different worlds where it's important for people to have proof of ownership of something and to gain automatically from that ownership. I know Loot.io, which I'm a partner in, it's already doing something with their payment system where the automatic payment out to the partners are actually done through an NFT, which is pretty cool. And I think as time expands, you're going to see more of this use cases where NFTs are being used for revenue bearing, where NFTs are being used for authentication, which we've seen with things like Brain Apes or CryptoPunks, where it's an exclusive community. I think NFTs are just a stepping stone into a world where everything's provable, trackable, and locatable. And it's a world with way less fraudulence than what we see now, especially in the financial world when it comes to white collar crime.
Tony, that was a bit of gold for us all to contemplate, I think, because that just opens up so much. It really does. And really it kind of almost like mainlines, the crypto into the everyday world, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then you can think about the fact that you could potentially have a fractional ownership of a real estate. Let's say I turn my house into an NFT and go experts. Let's say there's 100 shares of my house as NFTs out there. If you buy a share, then 1% of whatever the house generates goes to you. And think about on the other end, if we potentially could reverse the process, and this technology is very new, I don't think it exists yet, but if we can have an NFT that deduct X amount from someone's crypto wallet on a weekly or yearly basis, then you can have things like you never having to fill out your tax returns again, or all your Amazon subscriptions or Netflix subscription goes away like that from your crypto account. All of these could be potentially huge, absolutely huge. Still needs to be worked out, but the potential of what NFTs as a technology could do, it's absolutely astounding.
I think that's what excites me so much, Tony, seeing, young creative minds like yourself, getting involved on this platform, being so engaged and getting rewarded for it, is because I think it is throwing away these kind of rigid ideas we've got of how economics works, how this old way of things works, because it literally is like you're reimagining, right? Like right now, reimagining what's possible.
I mean, in a way, and this is going to sound really, really, really old. In a way, it kind of is just economics, except with extra steps, because you still have all the supply and demand, you still have all of those ideas, you still have all the ideas of scarcity, you still have the idea of operational cost, of marginal cost, average total cost, whether these NFT space is going to turn stocks into something more akin to Forex trading, where each are paired with another pair. That's all another layer of question. I think it's kind of extending into what macroeconomics could be in the digital world instead of kind of reimagining. I think our society is built based on economic values, except people don't act rationally. So that's what I think. I think that this is an extension on the irrationality of the macroeconomic system moving into the digital world.
Awesome, man. All right, Tony, I've got one more question for you before I'll hand over my questions. But I'm going to just anyone who's watching at the moment, anyone in the chat or if you're watching the live streams, if you've got any questions for Tony, write them in, drop them in now, and I'll hand you over to Alex in a moment. But while you're all doing that, Tony, my last question. I think we're seeing some interesting people start coming to the platform. I know I've got a couple of mates who are incredible artists, incredible humans that are successful in their own ways in lots of different ways. Just like yourself, you're saying you're bringing these people on. What's the best way we can help people who already are high value creators get started on BitClout? Because, obviously one of the things that happens is people are used to getting it everywhere else. They come on BitClout and it feels a little bit like, there's nothing here. So they kind of go away again. What's your advice there?
My advice is don't come here. This sounds kind of contradictory, But if you're a big celebrity, don't come here. It's not worth your time. Your opportunity cost is way higher just being on the platform. Just come, claim your account, and have your normal everyday intern make posts that you would make on your Twitter, pretend it doesn't exist, and be thankful after 5 years when it actually starting to get mainstream. When it comes to high-level influencers, the platform is not ready. It has like 8,000 active users. That is way too low of a number count. I think once it grows, way different story. I think for people who are in the NFT space who's been relatively big, or artists who has been relatively successful, what they need to realize when they come on here is that this is a new environment. This isn't like every other environment. I think it should be treated as I'm in a new space. I am new. I shouldn't expect what I've seen before. That's the attitude I think needs to become in. And I think that needs to be drilled into the heads of everyone who's onboarded, because it's hard for people to actually realize a lot of that. Since a lot of that, especially if you live in a world where you're a giant influencer, you're not going to get what you expect. The people are just too little now. I think that's in level. I would honestly not recommend people on board if they are like a huge influencer or they expect to be a huge influencer. However, if you're, let's say, someone in the finance world, do come. I think that's
in a way that's kind of pre-setting, isn't it? Like having the people in the finance, the investors, having them in the place, then it's juicing up and building up something that is tangible right now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I think. You need that build up. It kind of the best way I can put it is that you need kind of, and sorry to allude to pyramids, but you need that kind of structure. You need the people who built it as the bottom layer, and then you need to slowly build up. And I think the larger influencer are probably the second to last top layers when it comes to people. I think the last layer are probably political people, but I think that's probably going to be that layer when it comes to is BitClout ready. I don't think the platform is ready for those people right now.
Gotcha. I think this came up in a conversation, one of our other interviews. It's like, you know, when you're having a big party and it's like you're getting the house ready, you're preparing, and you always get those mates who come early and they're super annoying because they want to have the music on. Oh, where's the drinks? It's like, hang on, we're still setting the party up. Can you just hold on, you know? And it'll be ready soon.
Yeah, honestly, nice. Exactly like that. But the real question here is, what in all of this made you expect that I get invited to parties?
Well, you'll be invited to the Clout Forum party, that's for sure, Tony. Awesome, man. Hey, Tony, I'll send you an NFT that gives you a permanent invite to all of my parties for the rest of my life. All right.
I'll hold you to it.
I might have to do. Oh shit, that's going to be an interesting one.
Show up at Mark's. I don't know if you have children. Show up at Mark's kid's birthday party.
Yeah, I do. Get you in for his 12th. I think that would go down well. All right, Alex, my friend, I think you have some questions, my man. Would you like to come in and ask this beautiful man some questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Mark, for giving me a word. Tony, I would like to start with a question about NFT. So I will give you an example of the use case of NFT that I've come up, and I've posted it on my page. So I saw the post of Ars, who is saying, give me your ideas of how I can redesign the house that I'm going to build. And
I don't know if it's my internet, but Alex is dropping off of me.
I think we lost you at the end there, Alex. Oh, hang on, Alex, your connection's dropping. You might need to restart that one, or at least the last half. Oh, we're working, Tony, on getting Alex's internet sorted out.
Don't worry, I was warned. Mercury, if you're listening, can we remix that?
Yeah. Sorry, Alex, it's not coming through, man. We might need you to do text.
Like everyone.
He's out. He's out.
Yeah.
All right, Tony. So did you pick up where that question was going?
I have absolutely zero idea. All I got was something about art redesign and house. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, one of the use cases I could think of is for like designers, which my dad used to be a designer. It's if you could design a model of a house and have that intellectual property attached to it, and a realtor could literally just go onto a website that has everyone's designs listed and just pick and choose different parts of the design and like build their own house and use that as a foundational print. So you don't have to hire vast amounts of designers and architects. But oh shit, wait, I don't think I'm supposed to say this. But yeah, so yes, interesting ideas. Yeah.
Do we need to get that edited out?
No, don't worry. I don't think I said too much.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think he'll be popping back on, but I think his internet's a bit out at the moment. But so Dwayne and Emina Beck, if you guys have any questions, pop them in. Otherwise, Tony, I will keep asking you more questions for the next 10 minutes. So, so this is something you and I talked a bit about with when we first caught up before we did this interview on this call is and bonded a little bit over is this kind of ADHD kind of nature, which to be honest, I think, like you say, we're not the perfect examples of somebody who would be considered ADHD or, I'd almost say the victim of ADHD, because I think there's a blessing side to this that's, in the story that's told. Because I know that you yourself, it's like, it's in a way, it's that hyper focus, isn't it? Like being able to like focus and then switching. How has that been for you being on BitClout? Has it actually been a benefit being able to have that kind of attention?
I'd say so. I'd say it's kind of a double-edged sword because personally, there's been way too many times where I'm on an important call with the client or like I'm just talking about one thing and my brain just instantly goes to the random piece of shining plastic wrapping paper on the side of my desk and me wondering how that process is made and how that process made because it's potentially destroying the earth and could end up in the fish I'm eating tomorrow. Except for like random except for random instances like that, I think it's been very helpful, the ability to kind of hyper focus, especially when it comes to the ability to just go, okay, what is this about? I have no idea what crypto is. Let me learn about crypto. And then proceed to forget that time exists for the next 30 hours. And by the end of it, you know what crypto is, you know the basic history, and you know everything about that. That's been really helpful. Personally, that's basically my experience when I got onto BitClout, because before BitClout, my only experience to crypto is me as a tiny person. I think it was like 6 or 7. And my hip cousin just came into my room, hands me a bunch of numbers and random letters and tell me that, hey, look, I bought you some internet coins. It's this random worthless token called a Bitcoin. I don't know. I just got you like $100 worth. Go like potentially buy yourself something, which I thought was a joke, which now makes me want to kill myself, but that's okay. So, that's my only exposure before. It's that one experience. But I think the ability to hyperfocus really helped me when I kind of didn't know anything and was just learning about it. Because when I find something fascinating, you chase that dopamine and you just continuously chase that dopamine down a deep rabbit hole. And you just learn everything about a subject.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think that's there's a what's that social media? I've forgotten all social media platform names these days. TikTok. There's a TikTok guy, the guy that does the ADHD videos. And when I found that, it was like therapy. I was just I did that on his TikTok. I literally just went straight in.
Yeah.
And I was just watching one after the other getting therapy. I was like, oh, there we go. That's better.
Yeah, I relate to that TikToker so much. It's like the ability to be a complete utter dumbass and somehow also be able to achieve certain things that other normal people would have a large and harder time to achieve. For example, one thing I was able to do at the very start is my brain was able to pick up a pattern of how when an influencer first get on the platform, how their point price would go. And that allowed me to make, I think, like 30, 40 trades that made 20, 30K, off pattern recognition and things like that. Something I would probably never have picked up on otherwise. But it also leads me to do stupid things like trusting an account called 2K a day because the dopamine made it funny. And it was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm it. So, there is a double-edged sword there.
Man, the way there's so many bad decisions I've made are literally because it'd be funny. And like you say, the dopamine hit that comes from like, fuck it, let's do it.
That one sentence there has been the basic building stone of my success and all failure. It's just the words, fuck it, I'm going to do it and regret it later. Let's see. Oh, my friend invited me to a pre-sale of a actual cryptocurrency. Oh, all right, I'll just put a bid in. Let's play this on PancakeSwap for a bit. Oh, no liquidity. Okay, I'll just click around. 20 minutes later, liquidity gets added. All my orders gets processed at the same time for some reason. Buys up 10% of a cryptocurrency. The fuck am I gonna do? Either things like that happen, or on the complete opposite end, it would be like, who's this Mario Knopf? Oh, he's the annoying guy who keeps on spamming on my feed. I'll take a call with him. Ends up working for CF. So I think it's very much a double-edged sword. It's just the idea of fuck it, let's just go for it. I think it makes you hurt a lot. It gets you hurt a lot, either in real life or in the digital life, either in your relationships or business. It gets you hurt way more than your normal person, but it also gains you opportunities that other people would be way too chicken to take care of. Like recently, I personally went through something that was pretty bad, but right after that, I'm able to actually realize, hey, I did charge head first into this. This wasn't that best decision, but the next time I'm going to do it, I know how to do it in a better way. So I think it very much is that double-edged sword that cuts both ways.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things. I really resonate with what you're saying here, and it's as long as we also have that capacity, right, to learn from those mistakes without driving ourselves into eternal anxiety doing so, going over it. But to actually, right, it's like then it's like you become this jack of all trades that becomes a master of many things because it's, you have that willingness. But yeah, absolutely, it can be a brunt every now and then, which can be a bit hard for people to understand. Now, man, I have a lot of respect for what you bring to the table. To the table. Thanks, for man. Humanity, not just for BitClout. It's been great. Now, hey, I've got some questions here.
Are just bad jokes. It's just bad jokes.
What's that?
That's my conclusion to terrible jokes.
Tony, that's like the canary in the mine shaft. The day bad jokes stop existing is the day that I'm off to Mars. To me, that's a sign of good health on the planet. So we've got Alex has just come on, so he's put some written questions in here. So I'll go through these and ask him.
All right.
So we got pro or con for automatic copy trading.
Oh, you're gonna get so fucked. I think it's a giant con on BitClout because I noticed copy traders copy trading my accounts before, and this is why also most of my investings are done through Anons now. But there was a time where people were clearly following my trades. If I go into a coin, you'll see 4 accounts right after. So being the giant Chad that I am, totally, what I did was I started a bunch of random accounts. Just no one else, made sure that no one else gets hurt. But what I would do is put a bunch of money in, everyone else put, rugs these bots, like clearly bots, because I would buy in. Not 1 minute later, 4 accounts, each at like $50
really?
Each. Yeah. So I would just completely rug these accounts over and over and over and over and over and over again till they stop doing it. Because fuck you, bots, do it with your own skills. I think copy trading could be a good strategy if it's on a wider market. Definitely not something on BitClout, given how the bonding curve works. That's just my view on copy trading when it comes to BitClout. Copy trading in general as a term, I don't think is the smartest idea. I think that you're relying on other people's skills, and these people's skills are not necessarily reliable, especially in the crypto world. All the larger whales who are making the crazy gains, that's generally from insider information, if we're honest. And you don't know their public keys. Just a matter of fact that you don't know their public keys. Because personally, if I were to do something like that and make a gain like that, you will see that public key go into a mixed communal like Ethereum address, comes out in 10 different ends. never recombine again for the next 5 years. And I'm pretty sure if that's what I thought of doing in approximately 10 minutes, after the first time I was able to make $10,000 on the platform, everyone's doing it. So I don't think copy trading is the best idea. I think the people you're seeing now on the copy traders, I think those are the people that are, generally speaking, there for a reason. As in they're there to draw attention, draw publicity, but I don't think it's a reliable form of investment.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Good answer there. And the next question, I think we've already covered this when you dropped out, Alex. Utility-based NFT cases from your perspective. We went through that pretty good, didn't we, Tony?
Yeah. I think is really good. And I think we mentioned basically all the use cases that we mentioned and should have mentioned. But yeah, so it's good.
And shouldn't have brought attention to the fact you shouldn't have mentioned it. Now they can go back and check it. And I just reinforced it. So now Alex is asking, what's the way for you to relax? Do you watch movies and read books? What's the last movie, book you watched? What's your thing? So
last book I read was Snow Crash, actually. Blew my mind. It's someone from someone from the 2000s basically went future and got 90% of it right, which made me really scared for my life. But ignoring that, normally when I need to relax, I kind of just chill back, relax, play some games, and follow where the dopamine leads. It really depends on the day. I could just be doing something random, like painting a mini sculpture, or I don't know, playing with a Switch, like just a Swiss Army knife and staring at it and wondering how it works, building something new, just being a little shit around Clubhouse. Depends on the day. It really depends. I guess my favorite activity would be kind of hanging out with some friends, maybe. But since lockdown's happening, that's not really happening.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. And are you the same, that like boredom seems like a strange concept? Like,
yes, if I'm bored, I will want to inflict massive physical pain upon myself.
Gotta love being human, Tony. It's a special experience.
Yeah, being bored is the worst.
All right. So next, McDonald's or KFC?
Yeah, you see, to anyone who only eats McDonald's and KFC, you are uncultured, because the best fast food, when it comes to fast food, it's neither of those. If you're in Canada, hands down, the best place to grab a bite is Tim Hortons. They're the absolute best. And if you're looking for good fried chicken, you go to Jollibee's. If you're looking for a good burger, you go to, like, I think Burger King is probably better. But honestly, if you can, just make food at home, because cooking is fun. Except for the kitchen smoke alarm. That's not really fun for them. But everything else wise, it's fun.
Alice, can we cut that section and NFT it? That's life advice from Tony Wu. That was brilliant. You got some real good tips on fast food, and absolutely, man, I've just started doing HelloFresh at home, and it's refreshing. KFC wears out real quick.
Don't even do HelloFresh.
Hey, it's a step in the right direction for me, Tony.
Honestly, my favorite activity, it's literally just sometimes randomly go to the local grocery store. And what I would do is go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick like 5 things, grab it home, and like, all right, let me cook a meal out of
this. There's a cooking show there. Maybe it could be a Clout Forum segment once a week, cooking with Tony Wu, and you can come in, take us to the shop, pick your groceries, come home.
You see, I would do that, but for the sake of BitClout having less of an obese community than the average American, I think I have to refrain.
Fair play. All right. So coming in, you got time for a couple more questions from Alex?
Yeah, I'm free basically all day.
All right, great. Well, Alex has dropped, so he's going to have to watch the replay for the answers. But he's got the questions here for me. So Alex was asking, can you tell a story about how you went from $150 to 200,000 in 2 weeks?
So yeah, I do have to be clear though. 200,000 was my peak. I didn't stay there for long. but this is how I made it there. I started with around $150. I started making new accounts and getting those accounts set up and growing those accounts. And that's what I kind of started off with as my quote unquote origin story. I did some service for another person I found on the platform. They were able to pay me in cash. I put that cash back into the system. And I started basically looking for projects because it's relatively early on that I realized celebrity and projects are the way that things goes up, especially in the early days. So I was in BitSwap really early. I was in at $120. That's a coin that shot up to 9,000, by the way. I was in at very early stages with that. I was in at the Clout wallet very early when I was at like $400 before it shot up to 4,000. I was in at a lot of these early projects. That was able to help me quite a bit to get my startup capital. After I got my startup capital, I was involved in a lot of trading when it comes to high influence accounts. I realized that once someone gets on the platform, there is a basic mathematic way to figure out how their actual fair coin value would be, kind of like a fair coin price. And that fair coin price, it's usually like if they have 100,000 people on Twitter, they would be at $100. If they had 2, they would be at 150. They have 3. It increased by different intervals. And what happens after they get verified? Using that system, I was able to trade for like another 2 weeks at really high returns. And again, don't trade like these now. It's not going to get the same result. You're not going to get the same levels of appreciation that I get. I don't think I'm ever going to achieve the crazy return like this ever again. I don't think it's sustainable. It's not investment. It's trading. Don't use this as an investment strategy. But that's how I was able to kind of trade my way up to around 50, 60K. That's before I kind of got into larger places. I started Builder TF. That was able to rapidly accelerate my own holdings across 100K. Then I kind of got more involved in a few other projects. We're able to get some early allocation to redone my work. We're actively investing in them. That was able to get me another level. And I think another level of where I got in is since I designed many of the pre-sale systems, I know exactly how those pre-sale systems work. So I'm able to take advantage of, hey, look, there's this pre-sale system that's going to be happening. So let me just simply, wouldn't hurt to ask, be like, hey, hi, I heard you guys are doing a pre-sale. Can I get in? That's another way I was able to kind of get in. And the last one is just honestly onboarding people I believe will succeed. Like Tantano, when I onboarded him, I think I was able to get 3 to 4 coins. My guy grew to 400 in like 2 days. Amazing. People like Jody, like I think I re-onboarded her a few days ago, I think 2 days ago, and she already like doubled her coin price. With people that I onboard that I think have actual skill, investing in them really makes it that they could go up a lot. And Black Cherry, who's been in my portfolio for basically ever, went up to like I think 500 to 600 on the top. And he's just absolutely astounding. I think he's going to be one of the biggest artists on the platform later on. And yeah, just onboarding the right people and getting into the right projects. I think it's a slow process. It's not an easy process. And I wasn't able to stay at 100K for long, 200K for long. I think it stayed for like 2 days at 200K before having my value of my total holdings drop. But when the time was there, it felt pretty nice. I'm able to offboard a lot of that through OTC and other transactions, which allowed me to actually start on my other crypto holdings. I'm able to actually get some Bitcoin and a few other coins that I was invested in. So yeah, that's fantastic. My story of how I turned 150 to 200K. Just do it consistently, do it with good intentions, and make sure you're known as the ethical trader. Because I would always, like, even if I got into a coin, I would literally talk to the owners like, hey, look, end of the day, this is going to be an investment for me. I'm going to be pulling at this level, and this level. And actually having those conversations with people has been my greatest asset, because that allows me to build up that level of trust that other investors don't have. It's when you see me in a cap table, you know that I'm in direct communication with the person who's actually running the cap table, where else you wouldn't see my personal name under it. That's basically how it's been, unless it's some very swingy trades, which in that case, it'll be very clear that it's a very swingy trade, because it would be like someone that everyone's talking about and I'm in that coin. But otherwise, if it's a project I probably have conversations with the people, especially if I hold larger amounts. I'm probably having that liaison things, talking about how I'm going to take profit ethically. And I think the ability for me to take profit ethically and do it over time, instead of just rugging everyone, it's the incentive for people to keep on inviting me to these pre-sales. And it's also the reason why I try to provide value. Like I help them rewrite their white papers. I help them look at their work. I help them redevise their business strategies. I think all of that is the reason why I keep on getting re-invited to these things with huge multipliers. So I think on some level, that's my story of how I went from basically pennies when it comes to numbers to 200K, which is pretty nice.
That's pretty incredible. That's one hell of a story, Tony. That's awesome. Really appreciate you sharing. There's a lot of wisdom in everything you've shared today. So anyone who's new to BitClout, or you've been here for a while and you're wanting to get a break on here and break through, because I know sometimes it can feel a bit stuck, rewatch this and really listen to the words Tony's been sharing, because there is a lot of wisdom in that. And I love the fact that you do actually bring that level of realism to it as well. Really appreciate that.
Or just like shoot me a text. Like unlike some people, not going to name names here, who are always high and mighty and don't talk to people. If you shoot me a text, I'll probably respond if I find the time to do so. Obviously, I couldn't respond like immediately to everyone, but I try my best.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. Last question before we'll need to close off, and we'll have to kind of, if you're up for it, Tony, I'd love to have you on more often. But for now, last question is from Alex. He said, you are one of the most distinguished representatives of Chinese-speaking part of BitClout. What's your message to Chinese-speaking potential users of BitClout? And you can do it in Chinese if you want.
同志们，还来上 BitClout 吧，不能让这些老外全在 BitClout 上，咱们中国人也得起码在这上面有个自己的地方啊！你想想，否则的话就全是老外的话，那咱们以后怎么办呢？反正我觉得大家都上来的话，咱们1.4个亿人，他们14亿人，他们这边几乎人都没有，赶紧上来吧！这样的话，我们大家能接着用这个当我们的社交软件，也不需要一直用微信了。我觉得这个大家都会很喜欢的。Yeah, and yeah, totally no submissive message there about how we can overtake the white people.
Tony said that, not me.
And obviously, if those of you who can't tell, that was half a joke.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. And I was actually just sitting there thinking, I love when I hear people speaking in their mother tongue, you know, because it's one thing, I'm half Norwegian, my mother's Norwegian. So I spent a lot of years living there and learned the tongue and eventually spoke fluently. And it was amazing that I would watch the difference between when people were speaking to me in English, but then when they spoke in their natural language, how it's almost like this different relaxation. It's a different languages have access to different things, right? It's fascinating.
I have a complete different personality when I'm in my Chinese mode too. And it gets really chaotic sometimes at night because I'll switch between the languages. 然后我连自己想到时候换了都不知道了. So it's a really interesting process where it's kind of just like a blending of all the things you need to know and you don't even realize it. And that's just a really interesting experience.
That's awesome, man. Hey, actually, there was one last question in, and let's close with this one from Dwayne, which is, do you know the best people to talk to about front-end development? Do you have some recommendations?
Evan Lin would probably be a good option for you to go to. He is at Evan Lin on BitClout. I don't know if he's active. If he's not active, shoot me a text. I will personally go to his front door and ask him to A, repay for the bubble tea I bought him, and B, talk to you about front-end development. Otherwise, H. Paulson, just default to H. Paulson.
We had him on with Raj early in this season, and that was a lot of fun. That was
I was memeing this. I was just memeing the Twitch on the side.
Oh, that's you went. Oh, Tony, it's been a lot of fun. Hey, man, really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, let's do this again soon. Alex, thank you so much for supporting and making this all happen. And keep an eye on Clout Forum, everyone. This is just the beginning. and we're going to have a lot of fun to come. Dwayne, thank you for joining. Everyone else who joined the live stream and the live chat, watch the replay. Feel free to add the comments. We will be checking them out and commenting the rest. So this has been gold. All right, Tony. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Ciao.
Ciao.